And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to host tonight Matthew Fitzsimmons, fresh off his rave review from the New York Times, here to spill the tea, as the cool kids say, all about Constance. Matthew, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Sara, thank you for having me on. Constance comes out, I guess, Wednesday, so 2 days from now. It is a lot of people have been talking about how to define it, how to categorize it. Some people are calling it a science fiction novel. Some people are calling it a mystery thriller. I like to think that it is that I think it's something that is blending the two worlds. If you even want to get into sort of that sort of intense genre label, at the end of the day, it's a book about a woman trying to solve her own murder. I liked the idea. The original impetus for the book was just, how could I write a book where the detective and the victim were the same person? And cloning was my workaround for what is obviously an impossible conundrum, because you can't investigate your own murder, barring supernatural elements. So that's what it's about. It's about a woman in Con Darcy who wakes up as a clone to discover that the person that she was before has been murdered, and she needs to get to the bottom of it.
Ooh, well, that is tasty, and you hooked us good, Matthew. I can't wait to get into every single delightful bit of that. But first, I just want to welcome everybody who's watching on Facebook, who's watching on YouTube, who's watching on who's watching on Murder by the Book, who's watching in my Mystery and Thriller Mavens group, who's watching on my channels, who's watching everywhere. Welcome, 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 thriller fans. You're in the right place, because it's Mystery Mondays, because you know Mondays can be murder, but we're going to make them a little less painful, if you know what I mean. If you've been here before, you know how this works. And if you're new, welcome. Here's how it works. Every Monday, I give you my hand-picked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. Ask Matthew about his book, Constance. Ask him about his writing process. Ask him about the name, the title, the cover, what is going on, anything that's weighing on your mind. Get it going in the comments. I'll get it right over to him. So I just want to welcome Tina, welcome Amy, welcome Susan, welcome Linda, welcome Alan, welcome Carrie, welcome another Linda, welcome Dana, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. Okay, so and I'm so sorry. Leslie is saying hello from Canada.
Hello, Leslie from Canada.
Leslie from Canada. I love just saying Leslie from Canada. Leslie is a top community member and a member of our Facebook group, Mystery and Thriller Mavens, free and open to all. Everyone's invited. And that's her trademark. Hello. I always try to do like a cool Canadian accent, even though I think that pretty much just sounds like me. My Boston accents. Okay, so Leslie says, this sounds great. I can't wait to get my hands on this book. Leslie, you're going to want to get your hands on this book, girl, because it is good. So I'm going to pop it in the comments right now so that you can grab your copy and support an independent woman-owned bookstore tonight. So here it is. Grab your copy of this Blistering and balletic book. So said Greg Rucka, who is the New York Times bestselling author and creator of The Old Guard. So let's start with some of these tasty reviews, Matthew. So rave review from the New York Times. Congratulations. That is, I mean, so exciting. And so they said, Sara Lyell, who's a New York Times book critic, said, maybe what we need most as this bewildering summer, it has been bewildering, winds down, is a diverting story about an interesting futuristic topic that injects no new anxiety into our brains or nervous system. So as I literally was like, I must have this because my brain and nervous system is so overwrought right now. So I'm going to post, it is a lengthy and very lovely segment that I pulled out of there. I'm going to post it in the comments for anybody who wants to read it. Or of course you can click over to the NYT itself. It's so worth it. So Matthew, let's talk about this book. So you said you wanted to write a book about a woman who was investigating her own murder, where the detective and the victim were the same, which that's a real head scratcher.
Right. Right.
Unless you're doing like a coming back from the dead, other side kind of,
Or
side
Patrick Swayze, making pottery with Demi Moore. I mean, it has been done.
Yeah.
But generally, I couldn't find one where it was an actual human investigating an actual murder. Supernaturally, it's been done in a bunch of stories. So this was, going all the way back to Hamlet. Well, no, Hamlet's a bad example. Scratch that.
Yeah. Forget Hamlet.
So.
Why did you want to write a book about the detective and the murder victim being the same person? Why did you want to tackle that literary challenge?
Well, it's a game I play with myself sometimes in the evening, which is where I just try and take like a familiar genre trope, like a bank heist or this, and try and challenge myself to come up with a twist on it that I have to. And a lot of the times I don't come up with one. And so I was trying I had posed myself the question, how could someone investigate their own murder? And I spent all night noodling on it and nothing. And I tried every permutation, and I basically got into bed. It was about 12:30 at night. I was falling asleep, and the words "What if it was a clone?" sort of popped in my head, and I did one of those movies, sit up in bed, and I went to my computer, and I was up all night, and I wrote a chapter, which at the time was chapter 1, but it's now the beginning of chapter 4, and I sort of started at the world building, and it sort of started off just this sort of, almost like, how could I twist a detective novel on its head? But then once I got into cloning, I started to realize that sort of by accident, I tapped into what I saw as being a very interesting thematic, idea that I could use to do some other things. And slowly this world sort of became for me richer and more lived in.
Interesting. Now, I once read that Barbra Streisand cloned one of her dogs. No, she cloned 2 of her dogs because she loved her little dog so much that she could not bear for this dog to pass. As the proud mother of a brilliant and adorable little dog who currently is doing a talking dog review of your book, Matthew. She's gifted. She speaks, she has several PhDs under her belt. She's currently doing a giveaway of your book. And I have thought to myself, oh my God, I can't bear to think of the day when she'll pass. Sure. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe I could clone her. So you have Constance clone herself, which is just, not so rare in this world that you have built. And then she wakes up, but something goes horribly wrong. 18 months later, she wakes up and her real self is dead. That's a crazy twist. So is that what came to you when you sat bolt right up in bed?
No, that came over time. The important thing was that she can't remember what happened to her. So I needed a device where there was a gap in her memory, where that she would basically have to reconstruct what had happened to the original Con Darcy. And so this idea of the mistake and the error got built in, that there was this much longer than normal gap in memory, and that caused all sorts of, that's sort of the driving mystery of the book, is what happened in these 18 months. Who did I become? You talk about cloning your dog, and people do that. That's a service that you can have now. But there's the interesting assumption that you think you're going to get the same dog, that you may get genetically the same dog, but environmentally, experientially, will that still be the same? Would you wind up the same?
If you have a different experience, nature versus nurture. I mean, these are all these issues, Matthew. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it is fascinating, and you're raising a lot of, as the New York Times review and many others say, you're raising a lot of really interesting, thoughtful questions here. Question from Joseph, and I love this. Does clone Constance still have her own apartment? I mean, where does the clone live? Like, what does the clone do, Matthew?
Well, after the book, I mean, at the end of the book, and my guess is she she doesn't have her apartment because when she goes to visit the apartment 18 months later, someone else is living there. So I think she's probably in the market for new deals.
Maybe she could, and we know what would be really interesting was, would clone Constance want the same apartment and would she decorate it the same way as the original Constance? I mean, it just, my brain is starting to hurt.
Right. Yeah, right. As experience starts to separate, how similar are these two people?
Right, exactly. Joseph would also like to know, your book grapples with genuinely thoughtful questions about the philosophical, legal, and ethical implications of cloning and scientific innovation in general. What do you think defines a person?
It's an interesting question. I think one of the interesting questions to sort of splinter off from what Joseph is asking is who gets to define? A lot of what this book is about is who gets to say who is a person. There's the moral question of who is a person. There's the legal aspect, is legally, how people are recognized. What makes a person? I mean, it's something that science fiction has been grappling with for, going back to Frankenstein at the dawn. Which might be considered the first science fiction novel. I think Mary Shelley wrote that in 1812. Is Frankenstein a person? And we've been we're 200 years into this question. And as in the book is, can a clone be a person? Does a clone have a soul? Is a clone, how does once science has taken it to that point, how does that fit into our traditional conceptions of personhood and what a human being is? And you get into, that you then get into who gets to decide that, who gets to say, who has the power.
Ah, wow. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, there is a lot here. Ooh, good question from Amber. Hi, Amber. Good to see you here. Mystery and Thriller Maven member there. Good to see you, girl. Welcome. Amber would like to know, is this book part of a series or standalone? So for those of you who aren't familiar with Matthew's amazing body of work, he wrote 5. Is it 5, right? Yes, 5 Vaughn novels. And is this a standalone, or where you see this going, Matthew?
It was, so it's a good question, Amber. It was originally intended as a standalone. It was always a standalone. And then I took a shower in January. I often take showers. It is not. I don't want to say like I took a shower.
You guys, Matthew took a shower in January.
In
January 2022, Matthew will take his next shower. For anyone who's wondering.
Exactly. For the record, I am a regular shower taker. No worries there. I had an idea. We were in the final edits for Constance, and I had an idea for a second book, a companion book. I realized that there were other things that I wanted to look at in the world of Constance. And so there is a second book. I am closing in on finishing it right now. It's called Chance. And I'm not sure when it will be out, but there is more to this story, I've discovered. Although that was not the original plan. Authors sometimes talk about things having a life of their own. And, we start off telling the book what's going on, and then at some point the book turns around and tells us how it's going to be. In the case of the book saying, no, we have unfinished business.
Well, that's what we call #shower power.
No. This is never going to die on the internet. No,
oh my gosh.
I'm the guy who doesn't shower.
This is coming fresh off of the whole Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis.
Right. No.
They don't shower. So we don't know. You could be one of them, Matthew. You could be a non-shower guy. You could be anti-soap. We don't know.
My shower credentials are strong.
Oh my God, I love it. Welcome, Bridget. Welcome, Allison. Welcome, Jonathan. Welcome, Donna. Welcome, Sally. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Glenn. Welcome, everybody. Great to have you here. Excuse me. So another question that Amber asked, which is one of my favorite questions ever, is she said she submitted this last week. I think she said, if you, the author, had to be stranded on a desert island with one or two of your characters from any books, who would they be and why? Amber, I love that question. I'm going to just keep asking it.
That's a good. That's an interesting. It might be Con because she's a musician, and I can imagine without art, you'd start to get a little batty on an island. I had to have one other. I'm trying to think. I've got a character who's good at building boats. It might be Dan Hendricks from the Gibson Bond series because he always wanted to buy a boat. He talks a lot about buying boats, so this might be his opportunity to build a boat and get us the heck out of there. So it's going to be Dan Hendricks and Con Darcy, and the three of us will figure it out.
See, okay, I was getting nervous when you said a musician because I was like, I think you should probably pick someone who knows how to grow food. You know, or cook food.
I'm not a practical man. I'm a city dweller. Those practical concerns are completely. This is why I would last about a week. You know, in the zombie apocalypse, I'm toast. I'm the first one gone.
But Constance could serenade you while you take your one shower.
Okay. Are there showers on this island? Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Like in the ocean, like a bath.
Oh, okay.
Sponge bath. Yeah.
Now this is sounding very lovely.
Oh my gosh.
I could get down with this island.
Oh, Amber is saying, hey, I love your lives. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Amber. It's so great to have you. And thank you for your kind words. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. So let's get to another one of these reviews. So I loved, first of all, congratulations. Publishers Weekly awarded you a starred review. So how cool that you get a star. It's like a Hollywood Walk of Fame star. A Publishers Weekly Walk of Fame. And they said, in this timely thriller, tantalizing clues, complex motives, and shifting views of the truth flow around. I'm going to pop this up so everyone can see. Flow around such issues as the relationship between money and power, the right to life, and the definition of self. Fitzsimmons has upped his game with this one. Congratulations on that. So let's talk about how you pulled that off. You said a few minutes ago that you may have a plan for the story, but sometimes the story has a plan for you. So does that mean you're not a plotter? You sat bolt right up in bed, the story came to you, or you just went with the flow? What did it look like?
Well, so authors often talk about these two poles, these two extremes. They're the pantsers and they're the plotters. And the plotters are the ones who outline, and the pantsers are by the seat of your pants, who just sit down with an idea and start writing and see where it takes them. I think I'm sort of in the middle. I call myself a road tripper, which is I'm taking a road trip. Like when I start, I know the destination, and I have a general route, but I have a short attention span. So if I see a sign for the biggest ball of yarn, I'm getting off the highway. I'm going to go see where that goes. And sometimes I generally wind up where I intend to wind up, but my route can change pretty dramatically along the way. I allow myself the possibility that there are going to be detours or something neat off in one direction or other that I need to check out. So
interesting. Now, does this short attention span help? Does that make it tough for you to stay on task and finish the books? I'm asking for a friend, and the friend is me.
I had that problem a lot when I was younger. This was when I started writing Gibson Vaughn. I was in my early 40s, and I'd written a novel in my 20s, and and then through the course of my 30s, I quit writing for a long time, and would come back to it and would start something and then stop. And at some point, I just got over that hump of I'm now not allowed. There was a point when I was working on 5 or 6 projects at a time, and you would have this I get to a sticking point, and then I would say, "Ooh, look at this shiny new idea over here," and I'd go and write 15 or 20,000 words on that, and I'd get stuck, and I'm like, "Ooh, there's yet another."
Yeah,
super shiny.
Yeah.
And I would just sort of pile, and so I sort of got to the point where I had a whole drawer full, metaphorically, a drawer full of partials.
Yeah.
And I eventually got to a point where it was, no, I'm not allowed to work on more than one thing at a time. For those reasons, because I do like the shiny new idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I guess you could always just go lie down, go to sleep at night, see what makes you sit bolt upright in bed, or, take a second shower. There's another option for you. Help you help you
Oh
go.
yeah. Oh no. There are some days when there are many showers. I learned that trick from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian author. He famously had installed like 3 or 4 extra hot water heaters in his house. And in the morning, he took a shower, and he did not get out of the shower until he knew what he was writing that day. And sometimes he was in there. He was in there a long time, so he never wanted to run out of hot water. I'm not quite to that point, but I really respect that commitment to the shower.
Meanwhile, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is pruning. He comes out and he just is like a shriveled raisin of a person. Oh my goodness.
Very clean.
Alan would like to know, from what authors or stories did you draw any inspiration for cloning Constance?
So, I mean, one direct inspiration.
He clarifies that he has not read the book yet because it's not out yet. But he said, "I am a Westworld fan."
Well, Crichton is a great example of this. I mean, Crichton is how would you classify Crichton? Because he wrote predominantly science fiction authors. But I was saying to someone just the other day that I don't know that he would get, if people were listing, our great science fiction writers, that he would get named, although he probably should, because he's written some of the Westworld, Jurassic Park, and Andromeda Strain. He's written these sort of seminal science fiction books, but yet has sort of, I think people sometimes think of him as like a thriller writer, or as it's interesting. He's sort of, Crichton is kind of in that category of his own, that he's just Crichton, which is a pretty odd, like in the same way that Stephen King is just Stephen King, and he does whatever he feels like doing. Inspiration. So Crichton, certainly, I mean, his ability to sort of take a technology and sort of, often a big theme for Crichton is technology gone wrong, or not thinking through the consequences of a technology. Obviously, that's Jurassic Park. Westworld has some of that in it. I also took when I was an English teacher, I taught high school English for a long time, and a great book that uses cloning actually is Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, which is this wonderful book. And he's a Nobel Prize winning author, and it's not a science fiction novel, but I didn't take, like, my conception of cloning and his are very, very different. But what I really admired about that book is he was really using cloning to talk about other things. It was almost incidental to the themes that he was trying to get at. And I that lesson, that idea that your science fiction conceit can really be used to discuss other things is as an idea that I cling to very hard.
That's so interesting. So I am not a Westworld fan for many reasons. So Alan, tell us what you think about Westworld in the comments. I'm curious to see what the appeal is.
I just lost your voice.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. We were having a few technical issues beforehand, but I just want to make sure we're okay. So what you like about Crichton is that he addresses, he sort of brings up ideas that haven't been well thought out, like the dinosaurs getting out of hand.
Right. But for him, it was the thing that drove Crichton on Jurassic Park was less dinosaurs than, basically what we're going to use with our understanding of genetics and DNA. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that was really the driving impetus for him. And then dinosaurs was sort of the way it was like the scariest way he could show the misuse of this. But really it was just about like, oh, we're going to let dinosaurs loose. Then we have access to the ability to splice DNA and do these sorts of things. What are we going to do with it? And he's right. I mean, we are now just at a cusp where people are able to select the color of their children's eyes, are able to start to pick and choose some things and through in vitro fertilization. But where does that end? As that
Mm.
continues, where do we draw the line in terms of genetically modifying our own children?
Ooh, interesting. Um, Let me ask you this. Let's head over to craft for a second.
Okay.
So do you rise with the sun, race to your desk, the words pour out of you. You said you set up bolt right in bed and then you went and wrote the first chapter. Are you a late night writer? What's the process look like?
I can write at any time of day. My best hours are first thing in the morning. I'm generally at my desk by about 6 in the morning, and on the first couple of books, I worked from about 6 in the morning until about 6 at night.
So
Yeah.
12 hours. Wow.
Well, it was this. There is this. I got my first book deal, and I was able to stop working and write full time. And there is a sense of you've got this thing that you've always wanted. You can't afford to blow it. And I was working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. I didn't take a vacation for years. I'm just relearning how to take a vacation for a while. I would travel and just take my laptop and work somewhere else.
How did you not burn out?
Well, that was the thing. Was I eventually I started to realize that was what I was doing. Was that there were diminishing returns. It was a matter of learning how to become a professional writer, right? For a long time, you write your first book, and no one cares. No one cares when. And in a way, that's very freeing. I didn't tell anyone about it. No one cared when it was done. There were no stakes. That's lovely. And in 2.5 years, I wrote the short drop. I was lucky enough to sell it. And they said, this is great. And we want the next one in 11 months. Go. And then you're like, oh, well, now I need to learn how to be a professional about this. No more can I sort of do it when I feel like it. No more is it. And I went too far the other way. I was like, I'm not going to blow this. I've wanted this my whole life, and and I overdid. And you're right. And now I work about 6 a.m. to about noon. Take a break. I go to the gym. I have lunch. I take a nap, and then I work a little bit in the afternoon. And and I'm more productive than I was when I was just killing myself straight through every day. So live and learn.
Interesting. Alan is clarifying he loves the essence of science fiction, as Matthew stated it so well, technology gone wrong, whose consequences are not sufficiently foreseen or heeded. He also enjoys the philosophical questions that can ride along with these stories. The cloning in Constance sounds like it touches all of the bases. Very cool. So are you going to continue exploring these deep philosophical issues in Constance too?
Yes, it is taking a slightly different tact. The first book is I don't know how much. I mean, the first book is a little bit about, as we were talking at the top of the show, is who has the power to say who a person is. What if you're on the wrong side of that? What if people are telling you you're not, not what you feel you are? What if who holds the authority? Who has the right to tell someone else you are or you aren't? And the second one, there was a different. It leans more towards the fact that one of the conceits I have in the book is that cloning is incredibly expensive. Like oftentimes in science fiction, you sort of have these new technologies which are just ubiquitous and available to everyone, but the fact of the matter is cutting edge technology is not everyone is taking rocket ship rides to the edge of space right now. It's only the richest men in the world who are basically flying their own spaceships around. Like technology is not a meritocracy. Technology is not democratic or equally distributed. It is often concentrated in the wealthy's hands, and cloning in this book is only for the 1%. And so the second book is much more about the consequences of that there's this large segment of the population who are left out, who only get to gaze at wonder at these things that this select group of people gets to have. And that's a little bit the driver for Constance too, as you put it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, so much to discuss here, but some of us are just really interested in books and bookstores and not in getting in a rocket ship and spending, spending 15 minutes twirling around the Earth's perimeter. Some of us actually care about bookstores and want to have bookstores when we come out of this pandemic. So tragically, one independent bookstore a week has closed since the pandemic has descended, shuttered its doors, and will never reopen. We don't want that to happen to the ones that are left. We love independent bookstores. Murder by the Book is woman owned, and I'm here to tell y'all, buy your copy today. I'm going to put the link in the comments. Get your coffee today and support an independent bookstore. Support a woman-owned bookstore. It's worth the few extra bucks to pay for shipping and feel good about having a bookstore when you come out of this.
Yeah.
Lori Lee is saying, I just started the book, was looking for a sci-fi thriller after discovering this subgenre from J.P. Delaney's Perfect Wife, and Constance seems to foot the bill. Yay, Lori. Awesome. Thank you so much. Amber says, well, you just sold me. I'm going to pre-order it after the live. Amber, thank you so much. You're awesome. Really appreciate you. I'm going to put the link up one more time. Well, you guys, it looks like we are out of time. This went really fast. Matthew, any parting thoughts? What, anything you want to wish I'd asked that you want to share? Spill the tea.
Well, I echo your sentiment about independent bookstores, and whether it's whatever there's something wonderful about the community aspect of bookstores. And you're seeing, we have so many. I live in Washington D.C. and for the most part our independent bookstores have thus far weathered this storm, and fingers crossed they remain, because it would be awful not to have that resource. I think we're poorer culturally and community-wise without it. So 100% underline that as an idea. As far as anything else, I hope you give the book a try. It's Con Darcy. She became very dear to me, and I put her through the ringer. I mean, there's that thing you say about thriller writers is, we make these characters that we love, and then we treat them terribly. So I hope you make it up to her, because I was rough on her in the telling of the book, but she's I'm very proud of her and that character, and I hope you will come along on the ride with her.
Matthew said he cares about Constance, and then he killed his darling, literally. I love you, Constance. You mean so much to me. You're dead, Constance.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry for everything that I did.
Oh my gosh. Welcome, Matthew. Welcome, Nicole. Welcome, Nancy. Great to see you. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Kristen. Welcome, everybody. I forgot. I had one last question. What was it like for you to write a female protagonist?
It was daunting, but very exciting. I mean, Gibson Vaughn was a man, and for several reasons, I realized that the protagonist of this story would be better served if it was a woman. And she's also 24, which I am decidedly not. So not only was I writing a female character, but a younger woman, and it took a lot of work. It was a wonderful process. I got to talk to my women friends and ask them questions and get feedback, and there were places where I was wrong, or I was just getting things right. You don't necessarily think about things from I am a 6.5 foot tall white man. I wander blissfully through the world with almost no obstacles before me, and it creates a very sheltering perspective, and not a healthy one. And thinking about Con and really having to do the work to push yourself and stretch yourself, and my greatest fear, the thing that kept me up at night, was this book is going to come out, and I'm going to be in the comment section on Twitter I've been like, okay, here we go again with an idiot man writing a woman character. And I was like, do not like that. Was, I think my number one goal was like, don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Don't be foolish in this.
What did you get wrong that your female readers said, no, sir, not today and not tomorrow?
Well, there's a whole section on how she deals with her hair. And I had written a passage about how she dealt with her hair, post becoming a clone that had grown and become very matted, and she needed to do things to it. And they were like, no woman would do that to her hair. You are out of, I was like, oh. So, and that point I was like, tell me, explain to me, and it was little things like that. It's those little touches that you don't.
Did you have her using a fork or something?
No, it was no, it was just a I can't actually remember what it was, that now that I've given that example. I just remember a friend of mine reading something I had described and saying, no, she wouldn't do that. She would do this, this, and this, and this is why. And it was just really, and those are the details that I think, that men often get wrong, that they don't take the time to pay attention to and to learn and to ask questions. And I hope I did her justice. I hope that she comes across as a flesh and blood human being. I mean, first and foremost, and then as a woman. So we will see.
Flesh and blood human clone, human being.
Depending on your point of view.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a very interesting, a very illuminating conversation. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on to tell us about Constance. And we look forward to seeing Constance number 2.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everybody. And I will see you next Monday for #Mystery Mondays, because Mondays can be murder. Have a great night, everybody.